The Western Conference is one of the most fascinating things I've ever seen because of the teams that we are talking about that are just hovering and trying to get themselves right at a time now to go on the road in the first round, play teams like a Denver that hasn't been to the finals, a Memphis that hasn't been to the conference finals, a Kings team that just, guaranteed, their first winning season in how long. Yeah. These teams are 1, 2, and 3 with very little postseason success collectively. And who might you get in the first round? The Phoenix Suns with Kevin Durant coming to town, a team that went to the finals a couple years ago. A Golden State Warriors team that's been to 6 finals and getting guys right at the right time. A Dallas team that just added Kyrie Irving. A Clippers team that's got Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Like, this is what the first round is going to look like in the Western Conference, where some of those teams might not even be favored despite the regular seasons that they had at the top. So that's why it's so weird, and it's going to be so compelling, and we're going to have even the play-in. Look who could be in the play-in in the Western Conference and what you have to do to win 2 games to get out of that just to make the playoffs because of the teams that we're talking about. So by far the hardest year for me, but maybe one of the most interesting playoffs that we're going to have, particularly in the West.
I wanted to ask both of you guys about these teams defensively. Last 15 games, defensive rating, Dallas is 25, Sac is 26, Denver's 21, Clippers are 22. Denver hasn't been great all year. Here, obviously, Sac hasn't either. Can you really be a sort of, maybe not a championship favorite, but a championship contender if you're not a top 15, top 20 defense?
I think you might be able to in this NBA. I think you can be so good offensively, and some teams gear in on that and hone in on that it can make up for a lot of those mistakes. Now, ultimately, listen, you're going to be in a spot in a postseason series where it's 2-1, it's game 4, it's a 1-possession game late, like it's a series-defining stretch of minutes. You're going to have to get some stops, in those situations. So there's going to be moments where your defense is going to be paramount, and some of these teams, are lacking. I never expected Dallas to be very good defensively. I mean, they weren't in the first place. Then you add Kyrie, and you got Kyrie and Luka out there together. That's going to present some problems defensively. They play really small lineups, and they get pounded on the glass, on the offensive glass some nights, which I never expected that. Denver at times can look pretty good, but they've got some guys in their starting lineup that have some limitations defensively that there's only so much you're going to be able to do. The Clippers are a little bit surprising with those numbers, and I think ultimately they have the capability to be that good defensively. So I guess the short answer is I think you can more likely to make a run at a title this year if you're not an elite defensive team because of all the things that we're talking about right now.
Yeah, that's valid. I want to say it was LeBron's 2018 team. That Cleveland team had a 26th or 27th defensive rating. It was one of the few teams, if not the only team this century that has made the finals. They didn't win, obviously, but made the finals with a defensive rating that low. History would say you need a top 5 something, top 5 offense or top 5 defense, or you need to be top 10 or around top 10 in both. To your point about winning it this year without a good defense, Tommy asked me a great question about Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
And his question was about their offense and the adage that in the playoffs, the game slows down. Will that sort of hinder their offense? And my point to Tommy, and I wanted to get your thoughts just on that question, but also on sort of my perspective. My point to Tommy was it's not just the pace, meaning like end to end. To me, it's how they play within the half court.
Mm-hmm.
Because of De'Aaron Fox's ability to break down a defense, they've added all this shooting. Sabonis, I'm going to get into some post-up numbers that I find fascinating in a little bit. But Sabonis, of course, plays a lot in that high post out of like a hub, 5-out delay action. So there's space. And then when they do go to Sabonis, there's movement. There's the dribble handoffs with Murray, with Barnes, with Herter. And so they're creating enough that I don't think it's going to slow down for them. I just think the game plan portion going against any great offense, when you have days in between days, like you have time to game plan for these amazing offenses, I think that ultimately is what's going to affect winning and losing in the playoffs. If you have a great defense that can game plan for one of these great offenses and you don't have a great defense on the other end, you're in trouble.
It is a great point, particularly about Sacramento. We know that they lead the league in scoring. It's been by far, I think, from a team perspective, the best story in the league. Going into the year, you looked at their roster. No one's expecting this. I mean, they legitimately have a great shot at being the second seed in the Western Conference in a conference loaded with top-tier star individual talent. They could be the second seed. So this has been an incredible story, their pace and the way that they play. And I love your point about it because I talk with people about this all the time. You hear pace and you automatically think transition, fast break stuff. Truth is, pace really is about how quickly you get into ball and player movement within your sets and how hard you make those cuts early and the ball gets hopping, because then you might end up taking a shot with 6 seconds left on the shot clock. But what you did to lead up to that to get a quality shot and the pace with which you move plays into that too, and they're great at that. One of the things they've benefited from, and you alluded to it a little while ago with the numbers you talked about these lineups, their top 6 scorers have missed a total of 17 games all season. And that's just not what we're talking about when you look at every other team in the top half of the playoffs in either conference. So they've taken advantage of that. So one of the big things is have your guys available every night. They have. Obviously, De'Aaron Fox had a great year. Sabonis is in a very short list. I think there's 3 guys that fall into this category. Most impactful player in their first full year with the team this year. I think it's him, Donovan Mitchell, and Jalen Brunson. Like those 3 guys make up the list, and you can't really put anybody else even in that category to discuss it. That's the impact, I think. And he played 15 games for him last year. That's why I said first full year, because he just played at the end of the year. That's the impact he's had. They're a fascinating team. You're going to be able to now get into them when you focus on one team day to day, like you said, you make those adjustments and you start to take some things away, and no playoff experience collectively, and who they might get. I mean, what's their reward going to be for this season they've had? Who knows who that could be in the first round?
Well, here's a really I know we were going to discuss some potential playoff matchups, and some of these are maybe pipe dreams because of the way the play-in is going to work, and some of these, depending on how the last 10 games shake out, we may be talking about something else entirely in 3 weeks. But, as of right now, there's a decent chance that it's Golden State if they end up as the 2 seed.
Right.
And Golden State is terrible on the road, and the reason they're terrible is because they can't defend the 3-point line. And so you're going into Sacramento, into a place that hasn't had a playoff game in 17 years, with a rabid fan base and all the sort of good vibes and energy and momentum, and you've got to figure out a way to cut that water off. That's going to be tough.
Yeah.
That's going to be tough. Look, we could go down the list. Oh, if they end up in the 4 spot and they play the Clippers, then we're talking about something different.
Right, or Phoenix.
Yeah, or Phoenix, right. So the big unknown to me in the entire Western Conference, though, is Kevin Durant's health. Because I just think he's that good.
Yeah.
I really do. And I think he's that impactful. And I think this is important. I really believe this. And I've had conversations with people in the NBA about this. Kevin Durant's one of the greatest players ever. He's also the greatest plug-and-play guy, if you know what I mean by that. Of course. He doesn't require a whole lot of meshing and chemistry and play calling even for him. Like, put Kevin Durant on a basketball court, he's going to give you an efficient 28 to 30 every single night with good defense, 5 to 8 rebounds, 5 to 8 assists. Like, that's what he's done his whole career, regardless of who's been on the court, regardless of the fit on the court. And so that gives me, I don't know what the word's hope, but that gives me a lot of optimism about the Phoenix Suns' chances to make a deep run if he is healthy.
We are 100% in sync there. I think he stands alone as a guy that would require the least amount of time to acclimate with new environment and make it look seamless because of what you just said. He gets it easy. He gets it efficient. He doesn't care about, you take as many shots as you want, Devin Booker. Chris, that's fine. I'll go 8 straight trips and not shoot it. I'm cool with that. He's not like some, top tier wide receiver that's demanding the ball and like having tantrums if he doesn't get it. He's just like, no, it's fine because I know I'm going to get my 30, shoot over 50% doing it, no sweat, and I'll have it when it matters most, which is, what he really wants. So I completely agree. He doesn't need a lot of time. He needs some, and most importantly, he just needs to be 100%. Like if he's Kevin Durant that we've known throughout his career, and you give him a handful of games, and then a first-round series that could be challenging, but it's not like I don't think they're going to get a team right off the bat that could take them out. Now there's another 5, 6, 7 games that Kevin Durant is warming up, and assuming they escape it, now let's say he's got 12 games, 15 games under his belt heading into the second round of the Western Conference playoffs. He's going to be pretty much up to speed by then, and that's why, I don't know how you feel about if you had to bet on it today. I know it's uncertain because of him. Let's assume he is healthy with 5 games left in the regular season or less. Maybe you think he needs less than that. Would you put them as the team you'd expect to win the Western Conference?
I don't know what to expect this season.
Yeah, that might be too strong a word.
Expect maybe is not the word.
You wouldn't be shocked.
I would be very comfortable saying
there you go.
With a healthy Kevin Durant for the next 2.5 months. Yeah, I'm good saying Phoenix should be the favorite in the West.